Awesome. I think we're going to get started. So want to welcome everyone today. My name is Stuart Blumenthal. I'm the Intacct Practice Director here at ETHOSystems. And today we're going to be talking about lien waivers. I know a lot of people are excited about this. This is a feature that Sage has added in the last release or two. And they're going to be extending these features out a lot, but I wanted to make sure we go through it, explain how it works, and so that you can properly roll this out within your organizations. If you need help afterwards, always feel free to reach out to us here at ETHOSystems, schedule time with your primary consultant or with support, and we can help set this up for you. It's something that's included with all of, if you have the construction module, it's included, and there's no additional charges for you on that. So just a little couple webinar details. Presentation's 30 minutes long this morning, might be a little shorter, but it's about 30 minutes. All the phone lines are muted, I'm sorry, so please use the questions feature within the go to webinar. If you want to copy the presentation when you're done, just let me know. I'll put your email address in there and I'll send you over the PowerPoint. There's really not a lot in this PowerPoint, unlike other ones. We're going to be just really diving into the product, going through step by step. So the video is going to be probably the most important in the end, which you guys can get because you're attending the webinar today. Before we get into the actual product, just a couple last minute notes. R3, which is going to be coming out August 9th, that's a Friday evening. It always comes out late, like 8 p.m. Pacific time. That's 10 o'clock p.m. Central time, 11 o'clock Eastern. They'll shut down the servers or shut down your environments at that point and do the update at that point. You usually can get in around by Saturday morning easily, but we are holding a webinar the day before on the 8th at 11 o'clock to go over all the new features that are going to be in there. Just to also give you guys a roadmap of what's coming out in future releases as well as the next release. One of the big features that we're very, very, very excited about that's coming out in the R3 release is the ability for joint checks. It's been way overdue. We're very excited about that. Also, the WIP management module, for those who have been early adopters, the WIP management module is coming out from everyone from early adopter to final release. This is a really cool feature and that we're excited about for our clients. We're also getting some miscellaneous enhancements. One of them that I love is the taking multiple purchase orders and putting them onto one invoice at one time. It's going to help save a lot of time. So if you have one invoice with multiple commitments or purchase orders, you'll be able to do that. They're also going to be having some tax usability things specifically. It's going to really help out purchasing, especially for our friends north of the border in Canada. It'll make it a little bit easier. And then more reporting, more reports in the library. Just keep in mind that the upcoming releases, there's no specific release like R4 or R1 of next year, but these are things that they're coming out with. I thought you guys should see a copy of this. Custom fields and smart rules in vendor compliance. So again, continuing on the vendor compliance route. Billing enhancements, more additions to WIP management, more usability features, more reporting, and then you'll see in the future, again, more work on the compliance with secondary vendor lien waivers, non-commitment lien waivers, and one of the features I think is really important, paid when paid. That's going to be a really nice one when they bring that out. But a lot of times you guys don't see the roadmap, and I want to make sure you guys see the roadmap of what Sage is working on. Again, subject to availability, could always get changed, but the R3 release is pretty much solid. And again, we'll go through this and show you how they work on August 8th if you're interested in attending that webinar. If you need that link, please let me know. Happy to send that to you. So with that, what we're going to basically do today for the next 25 minutes is go through the lien waiver setup, then how to do processing and Q&A. To be honest, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to ask. So without any further ado, I am really just going to spend the time in the product this morning. So I'm in my Sage Intacct at this point here. And so the first thing you need to do is turn on lien waivers or turn on vendor compliance. So what you're going to do is that you're going to go into company and you're going to go into under the admin tab, you're going to go to subscriptions. And at the very, very bottom of this screen, once this comes up, you'll see these are all the modules that you can subscribe to. Please, as I tell clients, please do not turn on things that you're unaware of. You can actually get charged. Some things cannot be turned off. So please work with a consultant if you have any questions regarding that. But if you go down all the way down to the bottom, you'll see vendor compliance. This is one that you can truly turn on and off. Once you turn it on, you can turn it off. You don't lose anything, but it's basically just turning on the vendor compliance tool. So you'll just click that and hit done at that point, and it's now activated vendor compliance. The second step that you have to do is that once you turn that on, you have to give yourself permissions for that. So what you end up doing is you end up going out to your roles, and on my system, I am the administrator. So I'm going to go to my subscriptions here. And trust me, when this first got turned on, I was looking for vendor compliance. I was looking for, I'm like, where is it? Go under purchasing. You go to permissions under purchasing, scroll down to very the bottom, and there's two things that you need to give yourself access to. If you're the admin, one is the setup, and the second one is the records. If you're just doing, if you're an end user, meaning that you're the one that is using compliance, then you would want to give access to vendor compliance records only at that point. But these are the two things you want to make sure about: compliance setup and compliance records. One of the tricks that I always tell people is if you hit that good old Control F and type in the word compliance, as you can see, I've done that previously on this screen here, you find those setup options very fast. So I use Control F on my browser a lot. That should work on Chrome, should work on Edge, or whatever browser you might or might not be using. Once you got those saved, once you make that change, you hit save, you have to refresh your screen. I'm just going to refresh it for fun. You refresh your screen, and then those menu options would then be available to you. Some people log out, log back in. You don't have to do that. Just hit the refresh button, and those will now show up in on your menus. So where we go from there is you go under purchasing, where it's all is, and there's three areas. There's vendor compliance records, which we are going to get to probably in about 15 minutes. We're not going to get into that right away. And then there's the setup area, both compliance definitions and compliance types. And we're going to go through each one of these in detail. Now, compliance definitions and compliance types have always or have been in there for a while. And you can see here, I've got my one for a license there. That's been there for a little bit longer. Lien waivers has recently been added. So if you set this up originally, you want to make sure that you go back in here and set up lien waivers if you have not set that part up yet at that point. I'm going to just take you through each one of these, and I'm going to just show you a couple unique things behind them. So if I do the lease one, for example, just to show you, these are license one. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said lease. You can put in like things that you're tracking, like licenses. You could be tracking like W-9s. You could be tracking anything you want to be tracking, insurance, things like that. Anything you want to be tracking against that vendor. Now, one of the things that they have added to the system here, and you'll notice, is that we could track by, this one says vendor. If you set up a new definition, for example, and we say, hey, it's insurance or miscellaneous, you could track things by the vendor or now by the primary document. Since this is a webinar, I can't ask questions, but what a primary document is, that is your purchase order, your subcontract, or your commitment. One of those, whatever your transaction definition is for purchasing at that point. I'm going to cancel here and go back into license at that point, just so we can finally go through this. You can have this generate specific rules. So for example, if you were doing this by vendor, for example, you could say all vendors that are a specific type, like my subcontractors, we're going to require this compliance rule on there. So it makes it very simple. So you can have that generate the rule automatically, or have it generate manually based upon the vendor. And then what you end up doing is you can say, hey, if this falls outside of compliance, you can say, in this case here, like the expiration date, give me an error, a warning, or ignore that during AP payments. So the goal is that this stops you during the payment process from cutting a check for someone who should not be getting a check if they don't have their insurance, they don't have their lien waiver, or if they don't have something along those lines there. If I go into the lien waiver one that I created, so I've got it set up for lien waiver, I just called it all lien waiver up here. What it's asking me is that we're generating this for AP bills. So anytime I have a bill that comes in the system, I could put in a minimum lien waiver amount and primary document amount. I made it $1. So basically that means that any document that I have, any invoice that I receive over $1 has to have a lien waiver to that. Some people have limits like $250, $500, so and so you're able to do that. We're tracking this by the primary document, which we'll talk about. And then we're these are the automatic, we're gonna create these rules automatically against my purchase orders and my subcontracts. These are my transaction definitions in purchasing. And what we're gonna do is that we're only gonna create this lien waiver when we get our signed lien waiver back from the client. So that's gonna be an important thing here. It's like, again, it's validation against the document received. And then down here, as I mentioned before, you can say if they have not sent it back, are we giving them an error, a warning in purchasing, or ignoring it altogether? I'm gonna say stop, I want it to stop. So as a result, I'm gonna put that as an error. So when you set this up by yourself the very first time, you're going to come in here again, choose the compliance type of insurance, miscellaneous lien waiver. Based upon what you choose, you'll be able to choose, like, for example, AP bill or AP payment. We recommend AP bill. And again, we set up some of these other things are filled in automatically based upon what are you tracking insurance. You can say based upon the vendor or the primary document, based upon the expiration date. So this flag here really kind of controls how this is all done at that point. Once you set up your different definitions, so again, think of all the things you want to track against a vendor and again, the lien waiver, you would then come into compliance types. So I've got two different compliance types under here. I've got my business licenses and my lien waivers. Under my business license, it's pretty straightforward. I've set this up as my license. And you do need to set up something called a sequencing number so that when you go into the system, when you add more licenses or when you add the license records or the lien waiver records, it wants to have a numeric sequence. So I do recommend setting up a specific compliance record type for your different licenses. You'll see in my case here, I've got this just set up as BL for business licenses. Under my lien waiver, one of the things you're able to do is that you're able to, besides the sequencing, one of the new features they added was the ability to put in a template there for your lien waiver and then your final lien waiver at that point. In this case here, I'll be honest, I made mine both the same, but you could have a final one and a new one. These documents, I could send you over if anyone needs a generic lien waiver template. I could send those over to you. You'd have to just install them on your system, and then you would be able, and then you can modify them if you want to. If you have any questions modifying forms within Sage Intacct, feel free to reach out to us. We've actually done a class on that recently where it shows you how to add the Intacct toolbar to Microsoft Word, and then you're able to make changes to your invoice, your purchase order, your lien waiver, your statements, those type of printed off documents from within the system. So in this case here, yes, I have my templates, my compliance template for both my normal lien waiver as well as my final one at that point. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything in my notes here. I don't think so. So perfect. So I think we got everything at this point here, and we're now going to process a lien waiver all the way through the system. We've got this set up. So I'm going to hit cancel here, and I am now going to go back to purchasing. I'm going to come here and I'm going to go to my purchase order. And again, I could either do purchase order or subcontract because that was the way I set up that transaction definition. Or sorry, that's how I set up my compliance transaction. I'm going to come in here and just simply click on add a purchase order at this point here. And I'm just going to create a purchase order real fast. So my vendor in this case here is going to be A1 Electric. I do a lot of stuff with them. I'm going to come down here and assign this to my Arizona project on 123 Main Street, 1234 Main Street. I'm going to put in my cost code of R0, and I'm just going to put an item here just so that because I need an item at this point here. And I'm going to make this a good old, I'll make this a good old $1,500. You'll see that I've got my retainage here, or as they call it in Canada, holdback, and I've got my amount retained as $150 at that point, and I'm going to hit post. So no changes regarding the actual setting up of the purchase order. However, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to now convert this and I'm going to receive that invoice. So not doing a closeout in case we didn't receive it all. I'm going to now do a vendor invoice and convert that to my vendor invoice. And at this point here, I had someone playing around with some of my insurance. We were playing around with something called wrap insurance for a client. I'm like, wait, why did it go negative? Realized we were just playing around with some taxes down there that actually went negative, which is interesting. But anyway, come in here. I'm going to put a document number of 07/25/2024. And to be honest, I was playing around this morning with this. So I'm going to just put in B so I don't accidentally trick this up that I have two vendor invoices with the same name number, and I'm going to hit the good old post at that point. Now that I've created that, let's take a look what it did. First of all, if I go back to the original purchase order here that I just created, and it's already been converted, but if I hit edit at this point here, what I want you to see at this point here is that there is a new tab. So you have your posting details, shows you your general ledger. You can see the history associated to all this. But what I love is that you have a vendor compliance tab. So for example, if there was an insurance record or a miscellaneous record, I could see that attached to this specific purchase order. Or down here below, I could see my lien waiver. Now notice that I have the box says received is unchecked. So at this point I'm not going to, I could click on the edit box, come into the vendor compliance record, and I can say, yeah, this is my final one, that will print out the final lien waiver, or again, I can say the document's received, or from here, I can also print this out. So your lien waiver information is down here below. Your lien waiver information is also going to be under the vendor compliance area. And if you have a lot of transactions through here, you might need to scroll down. I wish there was a way of expanding this out just a little bit. But if I go to the compliance records, you can see for the one that I just created right there, and I'm going to sort this in order here. The one that I just created here, it created that lien waiver. It's the same area that I went into from the document. It just shows me all my compliance records like business licenses, lien waivers, and stuff like that. I can edit or view it from here and say, okay, great. Here's the transaction that it came from, purchase order. Here's the vendor ID. Here's the bill. So you can actually drill down into all that. I can enter in the document's been received by, the expiration date, if you have an expiration date on things like insurance or things like that. I can also mark it as a final compliance. And they have, one of the things they have added in the last recent update is the ability for notes within here. So they've been listening to all the things that people wanted in here. You can also see if it's been system generated, and you can put attachments in here. If you ever want to print it, I could print the print button there, or I can click on the print and email here. Since I don't have this set up for document for email, I could simply hit print, and this is my lien waiver at this point here. Obviously, you can fill this in however, you can have it state however you want. This is just a Word document, and then it auto fills in the amount and the vendor at that point. DocuSign is not available today. I wish it was. That's some of the things that is on the roadmap. moving forward is DocuSign integration with Intacct. You did not see it on the roadmap because there's no specific release or schedule for that. But for today, you would basically send, hit the export, download it, or you can send it out. You can e-sign, have it all, have them send it off from within Adobe at that point very easily. So I've now created that compliance record against that. I haven't received it yet, so that the document receipt box is unchecked. So let's go ahead and try to pay this bill at that point. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything in my notes. Nope. So I'm going to go into accounts payable at this point here, and I'm going to go into pay bills. So one of the things you'll see is that when you turn on vendor compliance, you're going to see another column. Sorry, I said the wrong word. You'll see another column under here called vendor compliance. What I'm just simply going to do is hit apply filters. I just want to find everything that's due for this bank, and I'm just going to hit apply filters. And what you'll see very quickly is the one that I just created, B, and I want to make sure it was the right amount, $13.95, but because we're holding back retainage and we've got that weird wrap insurance, I got to turn that off my demo environment, but I've got that there, and you'll see that it's giving me an error. So again, I can do a warning, ignore it, or give an error. If I do an error, it will not let me print out these bills at that point. So this is a good way of making sure that you don't accidentally pay when you're supposed to at that point. If I click on the error button at this point here, I should get a few error messages. 2 of them are based upon my entity saying, hey, they have business licenses that are expired from last year. I was playing around with some of this, so these 2 it won't let me go forward because those 2, my business licenses for this vendor are expired, which is great. And then here I've got my vendor compliance record saying my lien waiver. I could at this point here, come in here, hit edit, brings me into that vendor compliance area. And just like I told you before, I can come in here and say, yep, we got it. It's all good. Looks kosher. Hit save at this point here. Come in here and notice that at this point here, that dropped off my vendor compliance record. So that error has now been resolved. And then again, I could actually come in here and say, you know what, my insurance is not expired. It's actually good through 12/31/2024. Save that one and do the same thing for, and let me just do this, done. Let me come back in here and do this last one, and I'm just going to update this last one. I had one at the entity level, one at the top level. That's what I was playing around with before. So let me fix that, 2020-24, hit save. And now what's cool is that if I just say apply filter again, though anything to do with that vendor now, in this case here, these 2 freed up because I took care of both those error messages. I received the lien waiver on this one earlier this morning. I received the lien waiver and I fixed that one. But if I wanted to see what these other ones were, looks like I didn't receive the lien waiver for that one, and I'm betting I didn't receive the lien waiver for this one either. So, oops, I hit the wrong button there. I didn't see the lien waiver for that one. So that's why those are there. What I do recommend is that if you ever have a question on paying bills and you're getting a lot of these, create a dashboard for your lien waivers. It's something that we can help you with, but basically based upon your vendor compliance records, you can say, show me all lien waivers that have not been received yet. And you can look at that in here, or you can say, for example, you can do that in here, or you can create like a kind of a dashboard or a dashboard that you show up on your, when you log in, saying, show me all my lien waivers that haven't been received yet that have a bill against it. You can do something fun along those lines there. So that took us 25 minutes to go through, and I've allocated, right, as I said, 30 minutes, and I'm going to leave the last 5 minutes open for any Q&A that we have. We have a very large group on the call today, so happy to answer any questions anyone has regarding this. Got your, okay, perfect. Brian, I got yours. I will make sure I send you over. Oh, wait, can you please, yep, I'll send you the transcript and recording. Happy to do that. I'll send, yep, happy to do that for you. And then the only other question that came up is that as the updates come out, are they going to audit? Will we have to go back in and change anything? The answer is, so like in new releases come out, if they add things like joint checks and stuff like that, there'll be some setup options for each one. We'll go through that like when the stuff is coming out on the 8th. We'll actually be going through that together, showing you all what you need to do on the 8th or on the 9th after, sorry. Once the update's been pushed out, what you need to do to turn on for like joint checks and stuff like that, we'll make sure. But again, this module is completely, it belongs to you on the construction module, which 90, I would say, unless you're a residential customer, if you have the construction module, then this is completely free to you. I think that is all the questions for today. If you think of anything else in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to me. Let me just finish up the PowerPoint real fast to make sure I didn't miss anything. I went through the Q&A, ask any questions. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. And I think we're set here. Appreciate everyone's time today.